yesterday I was walking around my school after going to my mailbox, and a coworker saw me and said, "Hey, you've got a birthday coming up next week, right?" And I do. I will be turning 25 on May 18th, and a part of me is massively terrified because 25 means quarter life. Quarter of my life has passed, and I could be staring a quarter life crisis in the face. And as we've parsed through in our dialogues here, there's a lot of things I'm still working about on who I am, what I want to be, and turning 25 really makes me cognizant of that. I just had breakfast with a friend earlier today, and he was saying 25 is great, 25 is awesome. Other people in my life have been saying 25 is going to be a good year for you. But if it's going to be so good, why am I so afraid of it?
Is it because, actually, how long ago did it manifest in your mind where you started thinking about your age like that deep reflection and your, kind of thought process on, oh man, I'm going to be like 25. Like, were you like that? Like, oh man, I'm going to be 18 or I'm going to be 21. Like, when did it start for you?
Yeah, I think it started probably 23 is probably when it started. Because I think that after your 21st birthday, birthdays stop being exciting. You stop kind of like really wanting to celebrate it. Because like 21st birthday, oh yeah, I can legally go to a bar and drink alcohol. Even though I'm like not a drinker really at all. But it's like that like cool fun thing you get to do. And then after 21, after 22, it's kind of like, oh shit, I am slowly crawling through my 20s. And like, don't get me wrong, 20s, I feel like my 20s have been like great thus far. I've like accomplished a lot of stuff. But probably around 23 was when it was like, oh god. Because there's like the Blink-182 song, Nobody Likes You When You're 23.
Yeah.
So I think I was like looking at that in the face and being like, oh fuck. And then 24 was the same way. Had a lot of change happen. Like 23 turning 24, and now this year of 24 has been like, my first year like having a full-time job, my first year like really paying off loans, getting my own space for the second time in my life when I was like, but now I'm like paying for it all on my own, no help from my parents or anything. So I think that 23 was when the consciousness of age came about, and now it's just like, I don't know, like there's been a lot of hesitancy around turning 25 just because it's quarter life, quote unquote, quarter life crisis.
Do you think about being one step closer to death because you're turning 25 or at least you're examining all of the like options, hopes, dreams, and futures of your younger self that you are working on now? And so for instance, maybe when you were 18, you saw yourself at 25 doing this, and that, but now that you're approaching 25, those plans have probably changed a little bit. So like, where's that kind of coming from? Where's that rooting from?
Yeah, so definitely by the time I was 25, I've stupidly like put pressure on myself to think like that I was going to be like in a relationship not permanently, but in like a long-term relationship. I would potentially be like moving in with somebody. I would be doing that sort of thing. Like, I think that was kind of the undue pressure I put on myself. Again, like I thought I'd be at a different space with my art, like I'd have more accomplished. But that being said, like now that I'm honestly like here on the eve of 25, like I feel like everything I've done has been like purposeful, and it's all happened at the right pace. Because like I think about like if I wanted to have that type of I think about like if I had the things that I wanted to have at an earlier age, I don't think I would have been in the right place maturity-wise or anything like that, as weird as that sounds. So, yeah.
I've noticed most people, I'm older than you. I'm 6 years older than you, and I have a few friends that are closer to my age, and I'm really thinking about their lives, and I'm remembering 25 was a very big year for almost everybody, like including myself. Like just like how far we've come from even at least 6 years ago. So perhaps maybe now your like adulthood and maturity is breaking into this like youthful mind and like this youthful body, like, because you're still very, like if you talk to a 50-year-old, they'll be like, oh, at 25, you have your whole life ahead of you. Whereas now we're like, oh man, we're just getting old and
Yeah.
trivia. You know, like for instance, like, hey, Dan Aykroyd is this age. And you're like, oh my God, Dan Aykroyd.
Or like movies, people will be like The Craft came out 22 years ago. This album came out 20 years ago. And I'm like, fuck, like that's fucking trippy to think about. Don't tell me that. So, I mean, I think it's okay. It's also like, you know, you get to a certain space in your life and like, people are coming out and they're getting married or they're getting pregnant. Like one of my best friends just announced she's pregnant, and like a couple of my friends are already hitched. I think a couple more will probably get hitched soon. People have like started finding their people and their forever person, and I'm totally content like being in the realm that I am right now. Like I've gotten to a space where it's just kind of like, you know what? I'm at this age where like I know myself more than I ever have. I've had the opportunity to like really, really have the opportunity to like come into the working world and again, like actualize who I am, who I want to be, what I want to do. And that's awesome. So I'm positively looking towards 25 now, but that hasn't been like a positive thought in my head until I had a conversation with my friend earlier, and he was like, no, 25 is a really good year. And he's like, 25 is like, you know yourself, you know who you are, you can have fun, so on and so forth. And now I'm starting to be like, yeah, fuck yeah.
And that's a great thing to feel, you know, that young in your life to where you are coming into that perspective. A lot of it is, at least the way I have experienced it, has just been societal pressures and comparisons. So we see other people who are our age and they're doing a lot more things with their life, but they had a lot more momentum and they had a different perspective, whereas it takes a lot longer for some people to really come into themselves. So even with me, like 6 years ago when I was 25, like that was the start of my depression. So those were very dark years, and up until very recently I had to really like crawl through hell to get my soul back.
Yeah.
But I feel a lot more different now than I did at 25. I didn't feel as like learned or educated or even confident with like my, you know, intelligence. I just didn't give myself a chance. So it's either, I believe, one of two things. Either you really come into yourself in that perspective, or whatever you have been doing up until then just completely fails. And that's kind of what happened with me. But I'm really glad that you're seeing that now. You know, you're still going to change like a whole lot because you're in this stage where you're like in the cocoon, but you're not like freshly in the cocoon. You know, I think when you turn maybe 18, you know, that's when you get in cocoon mode, you know, because you're not this baby caterpillar anymore. So
yeah, although I would say like myself from like I was still like baby, not baby. I was still like doing a lot of It's weird because I think in college, when I was in college for the first time, I was still like a very similar person to who I was in high school. Up until probably I entered my grad school program. So I think I was about the same. Like, I didn't really make a lot of personal development and growth in the 3 years that I did my undergrad. Like, I would say I was about the same individual roughly between the ages of 18 and 21. Then once I got into, like, I took my year off and then I started my grad school program. Like, my grad school program onward was really when I started, like, growing into, like, my career and what I was going to be. And that now that I've had this first year of it under my belt, I have a better idea of, like, who I am as an educator, if that's what I want. And I have more confidence than I've ever had, which is also really new for me. Like, I still struggle with that, but at the same time, like, that has only happened within the past, like, year or so. And I think it's interesting because I've read, like, magazines or like, interviews with women, and they say that, like, being 30 was the best time of their life because in their 20s, they were still, like, figuring their shit out. They weren't confident in themselves. And then all of a sudden by 30, they're like, boom, I have it. I know who I am, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I really feel like I have a better sense of who I am, especially after this year. Like, I have a much more positive outlook on it, which I haven't really had even in the past few months.
I've definitely really seen like the transformation too. So we haven't really been in each other's lives for that long, but even within the past 2 years, I've really seen you come out of that cocoon. So there still might be a little bit more time to incubate in there, not because of your perception, but just because of the time and like the experience.
Yeah, no, for sure. It makes me think of the age of innocence versus age of experience. I forget, I think that was some romantic author that escapes me, but he wrote 2 books of poetry, works of innocence versus experience. And I know some English nerd's gonna yell at me about it, because how can you have an English degree and not remember? But like, there is a lot to be said between like how much you learn and how much you mature, and like no one can ever predict when they will mature. You can't predict when you start getting out of the cocoon. It just kind of happens naturally. And I mean, when I say naturally, some people are forced to mature a lot faster than others, like situations or experiences, right? But at the same time, like, you can't predict all of it.
Definitely not. And some people, the cocoon is forced and ripped open, and they're not even done developing, and they have no choice then to be this premature, I don't know what that is. And like, I've never seen an open cocoon. It's always just been caterpillar. Like, it's always just been caterpie, metapod, butterfree. Like, that's it. I don't know what's going on inside metapod, in between all that stuff. It could be just a matter of surrender the older you get, because like when we're young, we fight so hard to get things done for ourselves. So for instance, when we are 10, like when we want something, even if it's just a silly electronic device, video game, like whatever, we want to buy a toy. Like I was at Toys R Us the other day because they're going out of business, and then I saw a little 7-8-year-old boy bargaining with his mama, saying like, boy, this store is going out of business. Like if we don't get this, then this store will, like, I'll never get the toy ever again. And she was telling him, you already have 2 of those. But no, Mom, you don't understand. I need this to complete. Like, he was completely rationalizing it, and he did not give up. Like, even as they were walking away, he was still trying to, like, wait, hold on a second. Okay, it's on clearance, right? So if we buy it now, I'm like, damn, this is a really astute 7-year-old. Whereas, as adults, we just kind of learn to give up more with like I guess I don't want to say trivial things, but we wouldn't really rationalize getting a toy. But I think I take that back.
I was like, sometimes they're like, I'm going to have my Rusev day, or I'm going to have my treat yourself day, and I'm going to buy myself this.
Yeah, I actually had that yesterday, and I bought something I'm a little embarrassed to admit.
Do you want to talk about it? You don't have to.
It's not... I was at Toys R Us.
Yes, continue.
And I saw that they had these South Park toys on clearance. And there are these construction sets, and I've noticed there's a lot of these new construction sets with like South Park, Rick and Morty. I think The Walking Dead has some, so they're like adult Legos. So they really hook you into buying everything too, because each set comes with 1 or 2 characters, and then a backdrop. So for instance, like I bought the Stan and Kenny at the bus stop collection.
Okay.
So there's 2 other spaces on that lot, like the backdrop. So you can have Cartman and Kenny standing there. So they're all standing on the bus stop. But you can only get the Cartman and Kenny action figures when you buy the Mr. Garrison in the Classroom set. So... And then you, you have
to buy both of them.
You have to. Like, there's no, like, they don't even sell the figures individually. Like, it comes with the set. And then there's 2 other sets. So there's in the classroom, there's at the bus stop, and then there's in Cartman's basement when they're playing superheroes. So, I bought Butters, but he's Professor Chaos, and he's dressed up, and he comes with the jail cell, and you can actually snap that and put that into the backdrop of Cartman's basement. So So I have the whole set.
You know, the last time I like bought myself like something that like cool like that, it's been a long ass time. Something like toy related. It's been a long fucking time. I remember there was like a period, probably about a year and a half ago, where like adult coloring books were a big thing, and I didn't ever buy myself one, but was gifted them. But that's like, I can't remember like the last time I had like a toy that like, you know, because I think it's okay to be like an adult that like enjoys that shit. Like,
well, no,
are you just gonna?
I agree. Well, the thing is, I have a very addictive personality.
That's
like
true.
It's severe, and it pretty much transfers out. So if like how did I describe it? Like, can you think of a movie or a TV show or some form of like media where there's like a soul in? Oh, okay. Have you ever seen Jason Goes to Hell?
No.
Okay, it came out in the 90s. It was the only Friday the 13th movie that came out in the 90s.
Oh, I for some reason when you said Jason Goes to Hell, I was like in my brain thinking about like, is this like a teen comedy, like almost like who are the two Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, is this like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure except the guy goes to hell? Oh no, I have. Isn't that where he fights Freddy?
At the end of the movie, he his mask is in the ground, and then Freddy's hand comes out of the sand or the dirt, and then grabs the mask, and people are like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, for sure.
But in this movie, it starts off with like the cops are trying to get Jason, so they trap him in like this setting in the house. So the movie starts off with a naked, beautiful young woman, like she's showering, and then apparently that's like what Jason's into, but she actually works for the cops, so she actually gets away from him inside the house and then leads him to the forest where they just have this artillery waiting for him, and they shoot him with like military weapons, and then they just blow him up and he just explodes. So they take his remains to like the morgue, and he's finally dead. This is on the news, like Jason's dead, and the doctor who was doing the autopsy, they never explained it, but he just looks at Jason's heart and then he eats Jason's heart and he becomes Jason.
What the fuck?
So, but he
what?
Right, yes.
Hold on, I just need a moment. I need a moment with that. The mortician ate his heart and became Jason?
Yeah, so he still had the mortician's body. So it was still like the guy in his lab coat, but he was just really like silent and stoic as Jason.
And like wanted to wear a hockey mask and carry around a hatchet.
Yeah.
Or was it machete?
It was a machete.
A machete, yeah.
So in this one, like Jason was kind of like a spirit. So whenever like they kill the mortician, like his like spirit, soul, alien, whatever thing that was in him, like he would just kind of like launch that into other people. So there was just like several incarnations of Jason. Yeah.
I hate it. It's dumb.
And then like somehow magic happens and he turns into old Jason. Like, like the Jason at the beginning of the movie, even though he was blown to smithereens. It's not a good movie.
I can't tell.
But my point is, that's kind of how I feel about like my addictive personality. Like it kind of moves on from one thing to another. Like I'll be into movies. Like I remember about 5 years ago, I went nuts on movies. I at one time had over 400 movies.
Oh, jeez.
But I kept going to the pawn shops and buying them for $1. And I would just buy stuff I would never watch. Like I bought like Grumpy Your Old Men. I bought Caddyshack. I've never seen Caddyshack, but I bought it unopened for $1.
So you're like, that addiction kind of just, it takes different forms. And that's why the buying toys or something, I don't want to call them frivolous, but like buying these like fun entertainment items can be dangerous for you.
Yeah, collections don't, like, I can't handle collections. So, even with the movies, I now have literally 20 movies because I traded them all in to buy stuff for video games. And then, my video game collection, I remember I had so many video games. I was like, holy crap. At one point in time, I had 95 N64 games.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but I will say I did sell most of them, or I sold about 70% of them a few years ago, and it paid for 2 vacations. So,
well, that's awesome.
Same thing with Magic cards. I had so many Magic cards, and then it really ruined like everything. And then it just keeps transferring. So I think I just have this like impulsive like gratification thing within me, and it's always Jason's soul just like going into something else. So it's kind of like it's mixed up with like a gambling addiction. Like it has very much the same thing as a gambling addiction. Because to me, like opening up a box of Magic cards it was like Christmas in every pack because they're randomized, so you don't know what you're gonna get. So you might get like an $80 card in a pack, or you might just get a junk 50-cent rare, or maybe one of the uncommons that you get is like worth $5. You're like, oh, I can hold on to that or trade that in. So I don't know. My impulses have gotten the best of me, and it's weird because when I'm not into something, I completely abandon it and leave it in the wind. So same thing with like the movies. Like I don't buy any movies anymore. Video games, what I have done is I have sold off most of my games, but there's this thing called an Everdrive where you buy one cartridge and you can actually play all of the games like that you download onto that cartridge. So, so the experience is the same. So technically, I have a Genesis Everdrive, an N64 Everdrive, and a Super Nintendo Everdrive. So I have access to Super Nintendo games. Like I'm playing Earthbound right now. That game's $200 on the low end, and I'm playing it for free because I just downloaded the ROM off the internet. So at least that's kind of curbing it. But with toys, I collect South Park. I have South Park plush dolls that I've collected over the years. I have magnets. Like I'm trying to get buttons. Like so, I'm like a South Park. I'm really into South Park, but I want to get like a lot more memorabilia. But it doesn't really help because it's like an alcoholic going into the bar.
Yeah. My question as you're talking is like, what age or when did this progression of like collections and material stuff for these entertainment fun things, like when did that start for you? What age, or like what was going on in your life?
It's been my entire life. Literally, even when I was a kid, I would just, I was obsessed with just playing with toys. Like I would create these big scenarios where I would have my G.I. Joes, or I would have like the Pokemon toys. Probably it all started with Pokemon. So when I was maybe about 9 years old, because you had to collect the cards and you had to get the toys. So I think that's when it really manifested itself, because that was a massive collection. Whereas like Street Sharks, that was like, did you
I remember Street Sharks, but I think too young for it. Right.
So it was like that toy line was like not that many toys, like maybe 8. So if you get all of them, like that's it, you have them all. Yeah. But Pokemon, there was 150 Pokemon when it was new.
I was saying the first generation, let alone like when Mew and Mewtwo, and then
oh god, and then with the cards, like new sets keep coming out. So even if you have even if you have the whole set, you have to get the new set.
Sure.
I think it has to do with, it's an anxiety thing. So when I like do stuff like that, I get this like little rush, of like adrenaline. Like even today, like I before we record this podcast, GameStop banned me for 3 months for trading in anything. But it wasn't. Here's what happened. If you trade in multiple of one item, they mark your account. So I went to a pawn shop one day and I bought like 8 Xbox controllers for $1 a piece.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. So, and then I would trade them in, and they were worth $13 a piece, trade-in value. So, I actually paid for a Nintendo Switch just by trading in like a lot of controllers. So,
damn.
But I traded in a lot, and like they thought I was stealing stuff. So, but they knew I wasn't. Even like the manager approved the trade-in because they know it wasn't shady. It's just I get hooked up. So even today, like I traded in all this stuff that I've been holding for 3 months, and I got $340 trading credit for everything.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So
that's, holy shit.
Yeah. So right now, I feel like I'm like high out of my mind. Like I got this like little fire in my eyes where like, oh my god, I can get anything I want. So I bought the rest of the South Park toys with the trading credit. I still have a lot left, but I
was gonna say, like, that doesn't, like, I get the rush because like you literally are like making trash into treasure, like by doing all that trade-in stuff. You know what I mean? Like, how could you not get a thrill from that?
Even some of the controllers were broken and dirty, and they smelled like cat piss and cigar smoke, like no joke. And I take them apart and I clean them up and I restore them, and then I trade them in. So, and I like doing that mundane, tedious, like little tasks, like taking things apart and putting them back together too. Yeah. So, I don't know what collections, and I always change my room every 3 months too, like completely. So, like Monday, I'm actually going to completely change my room again. Like, I'm just going to move all the furniture, try to move the bed, throw away a bunch of stuff, and then just because I feel the need to be in a new setting all the time.
Oh, I don't get that. I do get a really good rush from like throwing away things or like giving things away. Like not like I just moved into like a new room in my townhome and like took over the lease. Because my dad and I were sharing it, and now I have like a roommate, and like we're living here together. So I took over like the master bedroom, and as I've been moving stuff, I've like gone through things and I've gotten rid of so much, and it's felt fucking amazing to like let everything go. And I was telling my mom, like, I get like a part of me like didn't like the fact that I bought furniture. Like I bought like a kitchen table and chairs, and like I didn't like that because I was realizing like, oh, if I wanted to like pick up and move, I couldn't do it right now. Like I would have to have like a moving truck and like stuff like that, because like I have a big bed now and a dresser and a night table stand and a TV stand, and I have a TV, and I have all these things now. And I like love being in a really like clean space, which you're probably shocked by with how I kind of keep myself, not myself, maybe a little bit of myself, but also how I keep my space. Like, but I really like having like openness, and like I think it would be overwhelming if I tried to change it often.
Yeah, so like with me, I'm like that in a way too. I'm a little more, like when it comes to like food and like germs and stuff, I'm a lot more clean. But when it comes to clutter, what I usually do is I just let stuff build up for a few months, and then I completely like get rid of, change, throw away, evolve, like just completely everything, and then it's not cluttered anymore. And then it's just because most of the time I get lazy and I'm like, I don't want to take this out today, like an empty gallon of water jug, and I'm like, it's just water. If it was milk, I'd throw it out immediately, but if it's water, I'll just put it in the spare room, and then the spare room looks like a hoarder's bathroom. It's just
my spare room looks crazy right now. I'm still in the process of like moving all my shit into it and like organizing and still like getting rid of shit. Like I've been slacking on giving things away to Goodwill or like making that trip over to Goodwill for like a while now. And it's not okay because my trunk is full of shit that I need to give away to Goodwill. So for you, the collection stuff has been in you like since you were very little, and it continues to be there. And you said you think it's kind of like maybe like a thrill, adrenaline, probably dopamine rush from having them. And
yeah, because it makes me, it cures my anxiety for like 5 seconds. It's pretty much like Xanax.
It's literally drugs.
Yeah, it really is, because like even this morning, I just was like talking to the guy, and I was trading in all my stuff, and the cool thing was because I was banned, like he felt guilty. So what happened was he actually gave me deals that I missed out on over the past 3 months. So, for instance, like
he's a good manager. He knows how to keep you coming.
Yeah.
He's a good drug dealer.
Oh, God. So, he actually honored, like, I got 70% extra trade-in on everything.
He's a really good drug dealer, and I mean that.
Yeah.
Like, he knows how to keep you.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, scratching my chest, and I was like, oh, God, what am I going to do? And I was just looking at his pants the whole time, I'm just like, oh, God, well, okay, I got to buy this, I got to buy that, I got to buy this. Oh, I'm not thinking about my life right now. And which is strange, because even right now, like, I really don't have depression anymore. I'm still anxious about a lot of things, but I'm in a lot more control, yet I'm still experiencing that part of myself that I want to get rid of, because I wish I could have it to where I, am able to refrain from impulse, and I'm able to just like put things aside. I will say this though, I was able to do that because I, like a few nights ago, I had one of my credit cards I was always maxed out on, and then I had $150 left on there, and then there was a deal on Target, and then I had everything in the shopping cart online, and I was like, I typed in all the address, I typed in everything, and then before I hit submit, I actually just had this moment of clarity where I'm like, no, I can't do this anymore, no! And like, I let it go, like, Like I was like somebody, like my loved one was dangling off the side of a building, and I let him go into the fire. Like that's how it
like
felt.
in Lion King, where Scar lets go of Mufasa.
That's how it felt, like Xing out that target page, dude. So, because I can't. I mean, I don't want to be an old man and keep doing what I'm doing now. But I will say I'm not doing most of the things that I have done in my 20s. Like I'm giving myself a chance. You know, I'm educating myself. I'm doing a lot more. Like right now, I'm more driven to lose weight than I ever have in my whole life, and I've lost 30 pounds so far.
Yeah, and it's awesome. Like you're doing a really great job.
Yeah, so I just want to be like a more motivated, like older person. You know, I'm going to be 31 in June. I'm not staring age in the face. Well, there are a few things I'm embarrassed about. Like, you know, I'm afraid to go back on the dating scene right now in my life. You know, if I met somebody in person and it worked out, then that's one thing. But like, you know, playing the game, like the online dating game where,
Yeah.
hi, I'm Brent. This is what I am. What are you about? Okay, this didn't work out. Okay, see ya. Hi, my name is Brent. You know, just like the rinse, wash, repeat.
Yeah. I saw actually, or somebody made a joke that said that like the dating scene now is kind of like, what are you interested in? Oh, wasting your time for a few weeks to a few months and then never talking to you again. Like that's definitely how my experience has been this past year. But finally now I'm like I'm focusing on like just wanting to have fun. Like I was telling you before we were recording, like now I'm in this space of like just focus on having fun and don't worry about it, and it'll like happen, or things will be as they should be. But like it can be a game, and it's exhausting.
It really is, because I think just with the age, like I was saying earlier, does come that surrender, and you know, nostalgia grows over time. That's something that really is, I think I mentioned on another podcast before, that stalagmite effect, where it's just that slow drip, and then you just have this big spike of nostalgia. I mean, the marketplace, the economy is taking advantage of that now. Like, why do you think everything from the 90s is popular now? Mm-hmm. It's because all of the 90s kids grew up and they have money and they can afford to buy those things again. So
yeah, whereas they never could because they were kids or...
Yeah, in the next 4 years, I would say with by 2021, 2022, you're going to see all the 2000 stuff come back. You're going to start to see like that new wave of metal that came out in the early 2000s. Like I think you'll start to see more of a resurgence of rock and roll. You'll start to see a lot more people's careers come back, like probably more boy bands. Like you'll probably see 98 Degrees, is that the name?
98 Degrees, yeah. Or even like now there's even like emo night is a thing. Like it's a touring, or like big cities will do like emo night where they just spin like emo records from the early 2000s. Like Post Malone went to one and there was like a video of him singing along to like the Black Parade. Like that shit's coming back.
So I guarantee you're going to see a lot more movies and you're going to see a lot more TV shows and media like just try to milk the 2000s within the next 4 years. Because they did that in the 2000s. Like they did it from 2000 to 2009 with the 80s. They had the Transformers movies, they had G.I. Joe, they had Thundercats, you know, all of that stuff. And then even in the early 2010s, like we had Beavis and Butthead come back, and then Roseanne is back again now.
So weird, which is so like I haven't watched it. Like it's a thing now. People are like, "Have you watched the new Roseanne?" And I'm like, no, because I honestly didn't like Roseanne in the first place, just because like a lot of the episodes I saw, I was like, this family seems very abusive, and I don't want to watch it. But maybe that's just my perception of it. It always freaked me out.
That's a show I've been meaning to get into, like the original and the new episodes, just because I like to see different perspectives and different families like that. Because I'm kind of tired of seeing the traditional Homer Simpson style family where like the father is a fat slob and the wife is like too pretty for him.
No, 100%.
Like it's just such a caricature of that. And then you got that in Family Guy, you got that in King of Queens, and Mike and Molly tried to do that, but you know they weren't. They were both overweight and they were both real people. But I didn't like the show because it seemed like every single character had the exact same personality.
It was that, and I think a lot of I could be wrong. I could be wrong here, but I felt like a lot of the jokes were just about like their size. Like I felt like it kept coming back to that in certain episodes, and like that's really fucking dumb. And like I don't know, like I think it still had like some soul to Mike and Molly, but it's also kind of like so like it's like this story about like two overweight people finding each other, because only overweight people can love each other. A thin person could never love an overweight person. Like, that's the thing that kind of is like seedy that is perpetuating. I also like felt weird about it because they would do these like exterior scenes and it's like, that's not what Chicago looks like. Like, no. Even the way they dress, like, that's not how Chicago cops look.
Oh, definitely not. And there's really not a lot of Chicago representation on TV like there is like with New York. Like New York, it's...
Well, it has picked up because we have like Chicago Fire,
right.
Chicago ER, and Shameless like really shows the Chicago. They have The Chi now. There's another one coming out on Stars. Like it's picking up a lot. There used to be ER back in the day. So, but like, you know, it's kind of... You know, how authentic they're really showing Chicago remains to be seen. Like, even Shameless, like, I don't know.
Chicago kind of has its own feel to it, and that's probably one of our potential episodes for a podcast in the future.
Oh, I'd love that. I actually was telling my friend today that, like, in the next year, I'm going to really think about moving back to Chicago. Dude, like, this is, like, really big. Like, it's been floating around in my head for the past week, so I got to feel it out for the next year, but... Yeah, it's got this vibe to it that, like, is very powerful, and it's kind of hard, though, because, like, the city has a lot of issues, like, you know, not just cost, like, it's probably one of the most diverse yet segregated cities in the entire United States.
Definitely. There's some places you go to that you just know you don't go to because there's certain things happening there, and then there's other places you go to, you know, like there's still a Polish neighborhood. There's still...
Well, it's like, it's block by block. Like, you go through, like, the areas, like it's again, it's very segregated. Like, these 6 blocks, like, are all, like Humboldt Park is known as, like, a Puerto Rican or Latino neighborhood. And then, like, obviously, what's the one on the south side? Hyde Park is known as, like, a Black African-American community. Like, there's parts of the city, neighborhoods that are kind of known and associated with, like, the ethnic or racial identity of, like, I don't want to say of its residents, because it's not like only Latino or Black people live there, but like, yeah, there's or Pilsen is known for like having a great, like, you know, Mexican community. Like, there's the Mexican American Art Museum down there, I believe, and stuff like that. So, but that being said, it's very, very segregated in that way.
Yeah, and gentrification's happening, so...
Oh my god, everywhere.
There's a lot of people that want to go, like, you know, for the culture, and then they call the police on the culture, and then they close down a cultural restaurant that was there for 40 years, and then they open up a cupcake store with like...
Or a fucking yoga studio.
Yeah.
So. And that's the other fear I have, is that, like, me moving in to a neighborhood would be, like, so, you know, contributing to the gentrification. So, like, that's something, like, a bigger picture thing to consider.
Move to the south side, then. Move to Inglewood.
Again, gentrification.
So, but yeah, I just think that at least like the older that we get, the more we just want to kind of like just have more relaxation and like more things at ease.
Yeah.
Because even like just like the older I've gotten, I've noticed that I've just come to accept a lot more things that I haven't before. And I'm still fighting for a lot of things, like just in the stuff that I research, but I'm looking at things from a very different perspective. Whereas when I was younger, it was very one-sided and benefited mostly myself. But now I'm thinking at things like bigger picture and what's really going on underneath it all. And that's really helped me kind of come into my own. And just talking to like the young kids, it's weird because I was having a session last week with a student. She was very bright, very mature, and she was 20 years old. So it's one of those things where I was talking with her, and she told me her parents are very young too. And I'm like, how old are your parents? And she said, oh yeah, my mom is 36 years old, and my dad is 38. And
okay.
So yeah, they had, you know, kid at
16 and 18.
16 and 18.
And that's how many years older than you? Like,
yeah. And she has a 55-year-old grandma.
Oh my god.
And she's 20. So yeah, but a lot of the see with me, like I connect with people based on my references. That's why I love talking to people like my own age, like who are within like a 5 to 6 year kind of range, because the pop culture references and all that stuff. But I'm pretty weird when I talk about slang from different generations. So like I say like, okay, that's the bomb, that's rad. Like I say rad, I say that's gnarly.
Yeah, I use rad and gnarly. Are you not supposed to now?
No, you're supposed to say lit. Like that's lit.
I hate lit. I hate lit or lit, facts. Ugh, I don't like a lot of the slang.
Yeah, hashtag whatever like you're gonna say afterwards. It's one of the things that I've learned about the world, and I've heard other people talk about this, is the way everything is set up is so only the young people exist.
Yeah, we have a culture that's like led by the youth for the youth. Like what is better than being a young person? Because all the culture is like feeding off of them. Not to say that they have all the power and all the privilege, but like think about all the money that goes into the industry of trying to stay young. Or like I think of like from my own experience as a woman, always seeing in magazines like, look 30 when you're 50, look this age when you're that, or there's definitely a privilege to being like young for some reason. I think we're out of a lot of like party culture, although I'm kind of like backstepping now. I'm like, I think there's still like a party culture that's very prevalent and privileged, but at the same time, like, that's not the only thing that demonstrates that like it's desirable to be young in this culture and society.
Especially like just the appearance of young, and it's weird how that works because especially like with women and even little girls, like from when they're about 12 onward, I think next time I come here, I'm gonna actually bring like a list of all the books that I've read. And just have the authors next to them because I always forget either the author or the book. But I read this one book called Packaging Girlhood. Mm-hmm. Brilliant book. And like there's another one too called Packaging Boyhood, written by the same authors. So what they did is they did all these studies on like what is it like to be a 12-year-old girl in this day and age. And they looked at like the marketplace at the time, and they found that most of the stuff that was geared towards 12-year-old girls was to make them appear older and more mature, which is kind of weird. So you have a 12-year-old girl wearing crop tops, or they have these catchphrases on their shirts that says like sassy, or, like my boyfriend does this or whatever. Like it was specifically, they looked at Claire's Boutique.
Oh my God. Yes. You're so right.
So that really made me think, to where like can't girls just like ride bikes?
I know.
Be kids? Like even like with boys, it's like, like you gotta be a man, little boy.
Well, yeah, and I think of like even the stereotypical toys that girls are given. I'm thinking of like the nurturing ones, like the fake kitchen and like the baby doll and stuff like that. Like that's all laying the foundation for like being a mom, being a housewife, being a caretaker or a caregiver. And it's like, again, like why can't you just be a little girl or a little boy and like hang out and play and not have to think about those things? Or even like the play that they construct as little girls is playing house, and you fight over who's mom, who's dad, and you play that little structure out. And it's so weird. Like, I mean, it has a lot to do with our socialization, because I don't think girls come out of the womb wanting that. Now, my mom attests that like my mom believes that like I legitimately like was drawn to like the kitchen stuff or the baby doll stuff as a young kid. I don't really remember that, other than like I did want Barbies, I did want to play kitchen. And I don't know if that was naturally born within me, or like I was already being shaped by my environment and wanted those things because I knew they were desirable for girls. Like I don't even know. But when I think about like stereotypically like what boys play with, like I mean, things like Legos are pretty gender neutral, but any type of building thing that's associated with boys, or like tag and like playing outside and sports, like for boys it's like this construction or competition, and for girls it's caregiving. And it's so weird to me. I really want to like deconstruct those boundaries of what play is for kids. Because it should be, kids should be able to do like whatever they want. They're children. They should explore all of it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of studies out there saying that even like rough and tumble play is like it's essential for like all kids, like not just boys and girls, because like you're getting to learn the limits of your body, you're getting to learn the limits of somebody else's body, you're playing rules, you're playing by rules, you're socializing.
Yeah.
And if you're well socialized, then like more kids will want to play with you.
Exactly. It's like very key. It's very key, like for socialization. I forget who I was talking to. They were kind of like hemming and hawing about putting their kid in daycare versus like, I think letting a family member watch their kid like solo. And I was like, you should always have your kid go to like daycare because of obviously you want it to be a safe location and like feel good about where you're leaving your child and who you're leaving them with. But like that's always better because they can get a socialization and meet new people. God forbid that they like enter preschool or kindergarten, they've never played with kids beyond their family before. Like that doesn't work well. Kids need the socialization to learn from each other and all that stuff. All right. Weird tangent. We can go away from if you want. What was your favorite playground game? I have two. It's Foursquare and Red Rover, which is the kindergarten version of a mosh pit, I've determined.
Mine, I think we just called it lava. I can't remember. So pretty much on the playground, on the jungle gym equipment, like you couldn't touch the ground. So like in our elementary school, there was like a brown, like it was like this rubber hard plastic. I can't remember, but it was like this weird material that was like, rainproof. So we would, and then it was, barricaded by like handrails and bars. So we had this game, like we had to play tag, but we couldn't step on the lava.
Yeah, I've heard that called lava monster, wood chips.
Yeah, so that was one of my favorites because like you had to really be creative in order to tag somebody. So let's just say that somebody was at the top of the slide. How are you going to get to them without like touching the ground? And then, I became like Beverly Hills Cop, like, like in the third one where Eddie Murphy like had to find out a way to save the kids from falling off of the like Ferris wheel, like dangling cage thing because they were about to fall. And he jumped off, landed on there, and then he got a rope, and then he like got him to safety right before the thing came falling down and crashing. Like it was like, that's still one of my favorite movies. But I felt like that when I was a kid. I had to add like the song from that movie, like in my head, like boom, boom, bow, bow, like just doing all that stuff and like just doing the jungle gym, and I was a lot more flexible. And when I was a kid, I remember. Oh, here's my other one: jumping off the swings.
Oh my god, I always effed up my ankles doing that, so I like kind of stopped. I love the swings though.
I remember one time, like I would swing so high that like when it would come down, like it would be like the dunk. It would just like pull it down and almost break it. But then I would always like. I remember I would do wrestling moves off of them. So like I remember one time like
of course you did.
Yeah, so like the Undertaker's finishing move is the Tombstone Pile Driver, where he grabs his opponent, flips him almost in a 69 position, but then he drives a that's the truth. I don't know how else to describe it.
I didn't realize it until now. Yeah, you're so right.
So he's giving him the 69 and drops him on their head. So then
that's what I want in the bedroom. Just 69 me, then put me out of my misery.
Oh god, let's hope that doesn't end like Owen Hart, where you're just paralyzed, or no, like what Owen Hart did to Steve Austin, just paralyzed him. But so in any case, I remember I would just jump off the swing and I would do the Tombstone Pile Driver move by myself, and I would land on my knees. And our playgrounds had rocks too, like pebbles.
Ow!
And I was fine.
You're nuts. You're crazy. I don't know how you did that as a kid.
It was so fun. I would land on my neck, on my face, on an eye, and I would walk out completely fine. Like. That and lava were just my all-time favorite games. Like even another thing, it wasn't a playground game, but like one of my all-time favorite things is like hiding in boxes.
Okay, what kid doesn't love that? Like, dude, give me boxes now and that'll be fun. But what about blanket forts or pillow forts?
Oh man, I didn't really. Actually no, I take that back. I did that with couch cushions. Like with my brother when I was a kid, like we had these couches that had at least 2 to 3 cushions on them, and we make these little forts, and I would sit Indian style underneath them, and I was little enough to obviously fit underneath them, but it was so much damn fun. And even at my warehouse job, they have these gigantic cardboard boxes they call Gaylords, and they are filled with like boxes, and they are at least I would say 5 feet 8 inches tall. So. I want to bring them home every single time I go to work, dude. Like I just loved it. And I remember one of my favorite things was I would, like, let's just say my parents bought a brand new TV. And back then, like, the TV itself was massive and the box was even more massive. So what I would do is I would flip the box upside down and I would hide in it. And I would call my dog. So I would say, Scamper, come here. So then Scamper would just come into the living room and, like, have no idea where I was. And then I would keep calling her name and she'd be confused. And then, like, I would move the box and then Scamper, like, had the shit scared out of her. So she just went, like, just running away back and forth. She did this thing where she would run to her kennel, then to the back door, to the kennel, to the back door, to the kennel, to the back door, and then stop, stare at you, and go, huh? And then, like, you know, you scare her again. And, like, she just kept running back and forth. And yeah, oh man, I miss that stuff so much. I can't really do anything. It's weird because I'm not a practical joker and everyone thinks I am. You know, I've never really punked anybody. Like if I fall and hurt myself, like it's for real. Like it's not a joke.
I remember you telling me that at one point, and I also remember when I did that joke on you where you were asking me how do I close the garage door? And I said, you just hit the button, and then as soon as you hit it, I yelled, not that button! And you thought I was serious and, like, freaked out. Like, no! Like, shut it off.
Oh, no, that was funny. I mean, I just don't do that. But, I mean, I can tell, like, when you're being playful, so it's not... But even still, I think
it's only specific moments that I'm playful.
Yeah. So, but thankfully, I didn't have to go to the bathroom because you would have had a mess to clean up in your garage.
Hey, at least it's in the garage, not on the carpet.
Right. So.
God damn it, Brent! Not on the carpet.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You didn't have to scare me, but now I'm very jumpy and like. Well, the other day I was just I was in my car going to work and I was listening to the new Ariana Grande song.
Ew.
I love Ariana Grande.
Ew.
Hey, don't judge. Don't judge.
I'm not judging you. Ew. I don't like. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I love that. Okay, I love the nasally voices, and she speaks half gibberish, like Eddie Vedder, and I love it so much. Like, I have no idea what Eddie Vedder or Ariana Grande are saying in their songs.
It's funny you say that because I also don't like Eddie Vedder. I don't like him for that reason. And Ariana Grande, like, some of her songs are like catchy. I didn't even know that she was like, she's not a Disney kid. She's like a Nickelodeon kid. She was on like some Nickelodeon show and then got famous from that, which I always like resent. I'm always like, you're not really a musician. You used your fucking actorship, blah, blah, blah. It's stupid and petty. But continue.
So I'm listening to Ariana Grande, and what I do is I just make up my own lyrics because I don't know what she's saying. So like, there's a part that's like, I'm picking it up, but picking it up, and I'm like, I can't remember what I was saying. I was like, I'm sucking a cup. I don't give a shit because I'm sucking a cup.
Sucking a fuck, like in Donnie Darko.
No, like a cup, like sucking a cup to your face.
Oh no, I was saying I would say suck a fuck, like in Donnie Darko.
I don't know. Sometimes I make up. Like I did an entire Bruno Mars Uptown Funk version, but with a cleaning lady, like lyrics, just in the car.
Oh boy!
Yeah, you gotta hear it one day. But I'm just there, and I'm just like in my own zone, just like I don't wanna fuck my face, like whatever the chorus was, and then there's this guy on the street that just came up to my passenger window and he said, "Hey, man," and I said, "Oh shit!"
Dude, I'm jumpy like that too. Like, at my school, anytime the first Tuesday of the month is the tornado sirens, and by my school, it's like this attention, like really like end of the world apocalypse shit. And the first time it happened, my heart just instantly like jumped through the roof, and I was like, "What the fuck is happening?" And all the kids were like, "Oh, it's just like the first of the month," and I'm like, "God fucking damn it!" Like, I hate the first of the month. What is this, the Cold War?
Oh, God. So this guy put his face like he was like really close to the car, and he's just like, "Hey, can you take me home?" And I just like in the moment, and I was I was in a red light in the left turn lane waiting to turn. So I'm like, "Okay, just please just let this light turn green." And then he's just like, "Please, man, I'll give you $300." And then like the way he said, "I'll give you $300," it didn't sound like he had $300. Nor if he gave me even $10, he would like. I was just so afraid, and then like my heart was racing like the entire time just on my way to work. But
no, I've gotten that before. Yeah. Totally.
That's mainly a scary thing. But like loud noises kind of freak me out. Like if I'm if I'm on the bottom floor of somewhere and I hear like loud boot stomps coming from above, that always makes me jittery.
I have a really bad. I have like a post traumatic stress response to like people stomping upstairs or stomping at their feet like above me. Like if I'm on the second floor and they're on the third, like I like want to curl up in a ball and like sob. Like that happened one time with my ex-boyfriend. Like we got in a fight for some reason and I was downstairs and he instantly stomped up the stairs and it brought me back to something and I literally curled up in a ball and started freaking out. And it took me a moment to realize like why I was having that response. But yeah, I feel you.
Dude, that's messed up. But yeah. I mean, it's not like it's not your fault. It's just, like the way our minds work like that, and it still sticks with us throughout time.
Yeah, the fact that I hadn't been in that like mental space for like years and then bam, in an instant it brought me back. That was fucking scary. It's funny like how things from our childhood would like scar us. Like when I look at my hands, I've got like a couple scars from things. Like I have on my middle finger. Which middle finger is that? I think it's I can't even find it now for some reason. But I have a scar from like Shrinky Dinks. Like you remember those? Like I accidentally like grabbed the cookie sheet without an oven mitt or maybe I like touched it by accident when it was out of the oven. But I have a burn from there. I've got like a scab on like a knuckle, like a scar on a knuckle from like I always tell people it's from the knife game and I can't remember if it actually is or not. The game where you'd have a knife and you'd like slice it through your fingers.
Yeah, like in the Alien movie.
Exactly like an Alien. But I can't remember if that's actually what that was from because I do remember playing that game as a child. Maybe it's from Bloody Knuckles. I forget. But regardless, it's interesting because in the same way that like we will carry scars on our body, we carry scars from our childhood and like trauma and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I think just even like, our likes and dislikes too. Well, I don't know if I said this story on the podcast. I might have told you, but I got CRS. In this case, CRS can't remember shit. But
do you know you've said CRS in the past 3 episodes and explained what it was?
Oh my god. I can't remember shit. But I was really fussy when I was a kid, and I really couldn't eat in the morning. So my mom, I only ate basic things like Eggo waffles, like slices of bacon. I had very small breakfasts when I was a kid. Pop-Tarts. I'm trying to think of like other things, but like just stuff that you put in the toaster that was quick. So
and that range of food was really small.
Very small. I was very fussy. If I have kids that ate twice as much of the food that I ate when I was a kid, they would still eat nothing. So my mom would take my brother to school, and I would just have the place to myself. I was young enough. I was still in elementary school, but I was like maybe 4th grade, so I was maybe like 9,
8
10,
or 9.
something like that. So whenever I tried to throw food away, my mom would actually look in the garbage can. And then I remember I tried hiding the food on the bottom. So and then she would actually dig through the garbage can and find why didn't you eat this Pop-Tart? And I'm just like, I don't want to, I'm not hungry. So, I wasn't abused or anything. It's just that I was so afraid of my mom finding out that what I threw away. So I did one thing where, I would pretty much take the food like in Shawshank Redemption. I would take the food with me to the playground on my way to school. So I would have bacon in my pockets, and then I would just empty it out of my pant leg, like in Shawshank Redemption.
Oh my god!
On the playground or just in the grass off to the side. And then that didn't work after a while because I couldn't smuggle Eggo waffles or Pop-Tarts. So what I did was I actually just put them in my drawers upstairs, my actual dresser drawers, and then I even threw some of the stuff behind the dressers, onto the, in the back of them. So if you have a bookcase or a dresser, I would just throw them back there. So eventually, it goes without saying. So after about 2 months of this, there was ants everywhere, ants and bugs all over my room. I've never seen anything like it. And then I didn't tell any of my parents or my brother even, or I didn't tell anybody this. So my parents were like, oh my god, this is so terrible. My mom was crying because she's got this image of bugs crawling on her son.
Ew.
So I remember it amounted to at least I couldn't tell you. I lost count. But like there was other stuff in my drawers too. Like there was like little like knickknacks and collectibles and like, you know, whatever else, like mementos. So one time I came home from school one day. My mom picked me up, and I'll never forget this. And she was at the kitchen table, and she's like, Brent, and like she like face palm, put her elbow, like slammed her elbow on the kitchen table and face palm. She's like, can you explain to me how all of these Eggo waffles, like there was at least like 50 Eggo waffles, and like there's at least 5 pounds of bacon just in my room, and pancakes and all this stuff. She looked at me like she was so embarrassed that I was her son. But like it wasn't that she didn't like I don't know how to refer it. I don't want that to come off. It's not that she like disowned me. It's just that she had so like it was just a question of like, you know, like how are you that stupid? But she didn't say it like that. She just like, Brent, why are there Eggo waffles behind your dresser? And
we've all had moments like
all
that.
This bacon, like so she didn't say like, "Oh, you're a piece of crap" or anything like that. She didn't chastise me. She just she really did a good job at holding back how stupid she thought I was, and maybe how stupid she thought maybe she raised me. I don't know. No. So, but because of that and the bugs, what I did was I would sleep on my side, and I would actually take my blanket and put my blanket over my ear because I thought the bugs would get in my ear. And still to this day, I can't go to sleep without some sort of like ear protection. I either have to have on a very loose fitting hat, or I have to have my blanket over my ear, even in the summertime.
Oh my God. I just thought I was weird because I can't fall asleep if I'm not on my back. And I'm also really bad at like if I have like a boyfriend over or somebody like and they want to cuddle, like we can only cuddle for like 15 minutes, and then I'm like, all right, you go to your side of the bed, I go to mine, I'm gonna lie on my back, and that's gonna be our night. You know, like I thought that was something. I've never heard of like you go to bed with a hat on.
I still do. Like, it's not like the hat I'm wearing now because I'm wearing I'm wearing a very tight fitting skull cap, I mean, or a beanie for that matter. I don't know what the official term for it is,
I
but
think it's a beanie. Yeah.
I've had this one hat for at least 15 years, and obviously I wash it and everything, but it's just that the threads are so loose, like it just rests on my head. It doesn't even fit my head, and it goes down. Like I could actually probably pull it down to like my neck.
It's
like
that's
how loose it was, so or how it is still. And let's just say if I don't want to wear my blanket and if it's a little hot, I actually put the hat on my head so the spiders don't crawl in my ears.
I didn't have anything like that, but you're making me think of being obsessed with I had a blankie when I was little. It was this white blanket with primary color dots on it. Except it had green. It was like red, yellow, blue, green dots all over it. I had 2, but one was like my blankie, and one of them got a hole in it, and I distinctly remember my grandmother said she'd fix the hole and it looked like brand new, but I didn't realize that brand new, like I would still be able to see the stitch marks, and like it was kind of folded in on itself because she needed to like grip that for the stitch, and I like was so upset it didn't look the same. And then I think, was it that one? Like my only one I like left in a hotel like in Houston, Texas, and like now I'll never be back because I lost my blanket there. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I had my thing was my blanket. I never sucked my thumb. I didn't do anything like that, but I had my blanket, or blankie as I called it. But that's the only thing I really had. And I didn't do anything weird about hiding food. I was really good about eating, except I do remember being very little and thinking, I must have watched the Rugrats or something, and they were like, spaghetti is worms, don't eat it. And I remember telling my mom, like, spaghetti, I don't want to eat this spaghetti, it's worms. And she's like, try it. And then I tried it, and I was like, oh, pasta's delicious. That's, yeah. Oh, I had this thing called Gabrielle salad so when my mom's parents still lived in the area, we would be over for dinner, and they would make like steak and salad. And my version of salad was just croutons, chopped tomato, and probably a cup of ranch dressing. And that was my Gabrielle salad, and I would eat that. Very gross. I also ate tomatoes like apples.
Gabrielle salad. I had a lot of things like that. My lunch when I was a kid consisted of peanut butter graham crackers. So like my mom would actually take like half a graham cracker and then put peanut butter on it and then put another. So it was like a little graham cracker sandwich with just peanut butter.
That sounds delicious.
And then I had strawberry milk and a bag of chips.
Like potato chips or
potato chips, Doritos, Cheetos. Like those like multi variety packs.
Yeah, the multi-pack thing. Yeah.
I think that was pretty much it. I didn't really eat too much else. Sometimes like I would have like grapes or some sort of fruit. But I ate that. But when it came to breakfast, I still just threw the stuff behind the dresser. My tastes have changed like over time. Like now, like the only things I still don't like, I don't like tuna at all. I don't like a lot of fishy stuff.
Me neither.
I don't like brie cheese.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like meatloaf.
You don't like meatloaf?
No meatloaf.
Like, my mom made meatloaf really specific. She didn't use, like, bread cubes. She used, like, it was, like, meat, onion, seasoning, maybe some breadcrumb, and an egg to bind it all, and ketchup on top, and that was it. I know some people whose parents were, like, cubed bread in it, or, like, an egg in the middle of it, and I'm like, oh, dude, that sounds gross.
No. What scarred me for life was lunch meat. Like,
me too.
But, well, here's why. Because I was so fussy when I was a kid. Like, my older brother's 7 years older than me. So even when I was, like, 6, he was 13, So he would actually chase me around the house with slices of bologna. Ugh. And I remember, like, he was like, you gotta eat this, Brent! And then, like, he'd be pounding on the door, and he'd just be like, come out, Brent, you gotta eat the bologna! And I was like, no! And I just was like scarred, and even to this day, I won't eat a piece of bologna or a piece of meat or pepperoni by itself. It has to be on a pizza or in a sandwich because it might as well have been a knife. Like that's how like my mind processed it. Like I thought Brandon was gonna come and kill me with a knife, but he just had a piece of bologna on the other side of the locked bathroom door.
Ew.
So.
Ew. I can't remember. There was nothing that my mom really made that I was like, ew, this is disgusting. I'll never eat this again. Like, she worked for a lot of my life, so we did a lot of, like pot roast in a crock pot or, like, crock pot meals. My mom makes really good chili, so we ate chili a lot growing up. But I don't think there was anything that I, like, didn't like. I didn't like lunch meat sandwiches. Like, I would only eat, like, pretty much PB&J for lunchtime. They were pretty good about, like, they would get the calendar, like, of lunches, like, for your elementary school, and we would, like, pick out which days I was gonna have, like, hot lunch and cold. I was a pretty good eater as a kid. My brother, on the other hand, never flipping ate anything except for fruit, salami, pretzels, ice cream, and that's really it. Like, my brother was also born with a lot of food allergies. Like, when he was born, he was allergic to milk, eggs, I almost said dairy, which is milk. Milk, eggs, soy, I think. Basically everything. And they had to buy, like, massively expensive formula for him. And he was allergic to many things. He was supposedly allergic to cats and dogs. But once we brought him home, like, they got, like, an air purifier, and our dog Shadow just wasn't allowed to go in his room, and eventually he wasn't allergic to dogs. And now he's grown out of mostly everything except dairy. He's still allergic to dairy. Like, if he has pizza or ice cream, he's paying for it the next day, like, doubled over in the bathroom. So, yeah, not lactose intolerance, like, milk, allergic to milk. So, like, you know how in Christmas Story, how the main character says there's always the one kid that doesn't eat, and that's his brother? Mm-hmm. That was me growing up. Like, my brother did not fucking eat anything. He would never sit at the table to finish a fucking meal. He would, like, get there. I'm being conscious of the eyebrow thing you told me about. But he would, like, sit down, eat 3 bites, run into the other room to, like, play a video game or, like, watch TV. And my parents, it was, like, such a struggle, like, keep him at the dinner table.
I was like, I think that's a little brother thing, because I was the little brother, like, in my family, and I would sit there and eat at the table, but I would take a long time. Like, I would strategically move the food, but I wouldn't eat it. So, like, so, like, instead of, like, let's just imagine a plate with a piece of chicken breast, and then you have mashed potatoes, and then broccoli. Let's just say, like, those 3 things are on the plate. So what I would do is I would take a little bit of each, and then, like, on the corner of the plate, I would just pile the chicken on the bottom, and then the broccoli, and then the mashed potatoes on top, to make it look like I ate, because there's less space. But my parents are like, you know what you're doing, right? You got to finish that.
Yeah.
And they would negotiate with me, like, okay, okay, just eat the broccoli, just eat this, just eat that. And I was actually a really skinny kid. And then, it's weird because like up until 4th grade, like I actually looked great, and then after 4th grade, when I started eating more, that's just like when all hell broke loose. And I'm still struggling with losing that weight now. But,
my brother was always really small until about, I think he got like maybe like well, he was always like, he was like underweight until it's like, I think after puberty, and he grew, and then he got to be probably in the low end of healthy, and now he's like, he's probably still there. He's gained more weight, like obviously in college, but yeah, no, he's definitely there.
It's like my parents still think I'm fussy. Like I have my likes and dislikes, but like just like if you were to tally up the likes and dislikes next to each other, like I have the same dislikes as my parents. Like my mom doesn't like peanut butter. She doesn't.
Stop! You don't like peanut butter?
No, my mom doesn't.
Oh, I thought you were saying
no.
don't like it.
I love peanut butter so much, but she grew up with it so much she got sick of it.
Oh, for sure.
But it's one of those like, see, like that's what happened with me with red bell peppers. Like I can eat green peppers and orange peppers and yellow, but I can't stand red bell peppers anymore.
If I have bell pepper, it has to be cooked. I can't do it raw.
Right.
Ugh.
I'm like that with cooked mushrooms. I can do raw mushrooms, but I can't do cooked mushrooms.
Oh, I can do both.
But like she also doesn't like spicy food. And she has a really sensitive like tongue to spicy food. So like sometimes we order pepperoni pizza, and she's like, "This is too spicy." But it's not like a Tabasco sauce or any like hot sauce like that. It's just like a nice spice, like a nice flavor.
Yeah, it's like spiced. It's not spicy.
Right. So, but they still think I'm fussy because they've just battled with my, fussiness. And I know, like, when I have kids, it's going to translate over to that. My kid's going to, like, just be skinny. Like, I'm just going to have this, like, skinny, xylophone-boned rib cage. Like,
oh, don't say that.
Doesn't eat anything. Oh. And they're going to think I'm a bad parent. I'm like, no, this kid, okay, try to get this kid to eat something. And then what's going to happen is they're going to just like, oh, do you want to eat chicken? And they'll be like, yes. And then they'll just eat the chicken. And I'm just, God damn it.
I was a good eater. My mom and my dad were really good about like making my brother and I like vegetables, because they would steam them like in the microwave rather than they'd get like a frozen veggie and like put it in like a microwavable container, and they would let us pick like what veggie we wanted that night. Like it would always be like we couldn't have corn every night because of course we would pick it every night because corn is delicious and sweet. Actually, do you like corn? Are you the person in my life who doesn't like corn?
No, I like corn.
There's a person in my life who doesn't like corn, and I'm like, you're flipping what? But so they'd like, okay, broccoli or green beans, this or that, mixed or this, and like we would pick. And actually, it's funny the example you gave of like the chicken, mashed potatoes, and the veggie. Like that was a pretty standard meal for us. It was like a piece of marinated meat, rice or instant mashed potatoes, and some sort of veggie, and that's like what we lived off of. Like that was really standard, like of what we ate growing up. Our breakfasts are always like weird or on the go or virtually non-existent. Like at a certain point, you start putting yourself on the bus when you're about, at least for me, about 5th grade. And like my mom would buy like granola bars or stuff, like really quick things, and then lunch would be like whatever I got at school and stuff. Yeah, but it's funny. Now, it's funny how we're talking about food, but, like, food is really a part of, like, childhood and age, and, like, especially your tastes, like, grow and develop, and it's not just for food, it's, like, music and culture and, like, what shapes you. Like, you, from a young age, were exposed to explicit comedy, and that has really shaped you from a child into who you are now. And I was, like, when I was 8, I was listening to the White Stripes with my dad, and, like, that's really influenced who I am today. So
much, like, Bernie Mac, like, Def Comedy Jam, like, like, you ever just be in the pussy? Like, that, and I was 6 years old, listening to, like, those jokes. I had no idea what they were saying, and, I remember I was looking for literally 20 years for this one comedy bit. And because of YouTube and then just searching the jokes, I was able to find it. I remember when I was 10 years old, I was just watching it was like a Showtime special where they just had a bunch of comedians on, and it was Tommy Davidson. I don't know if you know who he is.
I don't know him.
But he was really, like, he had his stride in the 90s. Like, he had a little bit of comedy, and then he did a lot of movies. Like, so, for instance, he was in Booty Call. You ever see Booty Call?
No. I can imagine what it's about.
Actually, another thing with my life, like growing up as a kid, I might go into this in another episode, but I had a very, very rich upbringing in Black culture.
You brought that up in a previous episode, and I think we need to have like we're gonna have to have a whole episode on like childhood and childhood experiences and how they've shaped us.
Oh my god, like just like with like just Black comedy, like specifically, like and just like Black culture, like I got like slang, like I pretty much knew everything, like just being like a white boy in the burbs, and I was exposed to so much, and it was just all amazing. And so Tommy Davidson had this one bit where he was talking about hillbillies and stuff, and like how he's gonna go tour down the South. And then like all I remember when I was a kid, like he was like dee. When I say turkey, you say corn, turkey, corn, turkey, corn. Like it was something like that, and that stuck with me for literally 20 years. And it wasn't until last year I was just searching like things from the bit. Like I just typed in like, okay, like comedian 90s. Turkey corn, and somebody uploaded that special on YouTube, and I didn't even know it was Tommy Davidson, because it would have been a lot easier to search had I known it was him.
Yeah. And
then I saw the bit again, and I'm like, this is okay, but like when I was a kid, that was one of the funniest things I ever saw. And then my dad and I were laughing too. And then there was another comedian. I still haven't found who said this, but he was another Black comedian, and he was talking about going to the store to get tampons for his mom. And he's like, "Boy, you better go out there and get me some Kotex." And then he just like walked it out. Like he worked it out in his bit where he goes down there and he's like embarrassed to tell the cashier, he's like, "Yeah, do you have Kotex?" And then like so yeah, we got Kotex, we got the family size. And then he was carrying the box, like miming carrying, like, like this is the here, mama, here's your Kotex. It was just so oh man, like
I have got a question for you. Do you think that watching and being exposed to that amount of like Black comedy and like that, like just comedy in general, but like I know you like really like love that and like not clung to it, but it really like you identified with it and like love it so much. Like, do you think that when we were talking like the cocoon thing and like maturity, do you think that like matured you like from a young age, or was it more so like you were dabbling in concepts that you really just didn't understand at that age?
I just didn't understand it, but I thought it was funny. The same thing with Cheech and Chong. Like they had skits.
Oh my god, yeah.
Okay, like Up in Smoke. It's still it's still literally my number one all-time favorite opening in any movie ever. Like the first 20 minutes. I'll put that up against anything any day. I mean, I wouldn't argue with anybody.
Wait. Up against Pulp Fiction?
I'll put it up against Pulp Fiction.
That was fighting words.
Yeah. I'm not, okay, I wouldn't debate somebody else by saying like, okay, this is better but just in terms of, I still think it's so funny all these years later. But there's a scene in the beginning of the movie where Cheech picks up Chong on the side of the road. Yeah. And then Chong, like, first he had stuffed his shirt to make him look like a woman. And then, like, Cheech only saw the boobs. So he's like, oh, she's hitchhiking. And then, like, he, like, reversed his car, like, 50 miles an hour, picked her up. And then it was just Chong with the beard. He's like, hey, man, I thought you were a woman. So, and then Chong pulls out this gigantic joint. Like, this joint was probably the size of a toilet paper tube.
Oh, my God.
And they were smoking it in the car. But the way they were reacting, it was so funny. And I had no idea what even getting high was when I was a kid.
Yeah, of course not.
But then there's a scene where they're in the court. Like, the cops pull them over. And then they're talking to the cops. And then they go to the court. And the next scene, and then Chong is so high out of his mind because he swallowed all the drugs in the car. So to like hide from the cops, and then he's like falling over the witness stand, and then like he was thirsty. He's like, I need some water, man. And then he goes up to the judge's booth and then takes her water, and then he takes a sip, and then like he spits it out. And he's like, it's fucking vodka, man. And then, like the case was dismissed. But when I was a kid, like I had that on Laserdisc.
Oh my God, Laserdisc.
And that was, oh God. And I think it really shaped my sense of humor, at least like just growing up with Black comedy, because it's not really based in sarcasm as much. It's very direct, it's very raw, and it's very much like real. So, and all the Black comedians I watched growing up, they just were so effortlessly funny. Yeah. So I did see like, white comedians like George Carlin and stuff like that, but just like Black comedians, like they understand humor so much, and they know how to deliver it. And you know, like the older I get, like the more like I look back on Def Comedy Jam, and there was just it was this feeling. I can't really describe it when I was a kid, so I really absorbed that feeling. Mm-hmm. So when I like look at comedy now, it's like this element of performance, you know, where like black comedy has kind of lost that now. Like you have like black comics, like you have like Cat Williams, and you have like, you know, like black comics geared towards black audiences, and then you have like mainstream black comedians like Chris Rock, like Kevin Hart, like Dave Chappelle, like black comedy, and like even like Hal Buress, but he's like more college humor.
Yeah.
But now, like with black comedians, it seems like they're more introspective and they are more pundits on the culture as opposed to like the very like wild, like over the top, you know, like flamboyant people like Bernie Mac. Like when his Def Comedy Jam special, like that's like some of the best, like that's some of the best 7 minutes in comedy history, where somebody came up before him and was bombing. And when you bomb at the, like, I think they were at the Apollo Theater, I can't remember if that's correct, but they were bombing, and when they bomb, like, they just completely massacre you on stage.
Yeah.
So then they were booing him off the stage, and then Bernie Mac was next. And then he came out, and he's just like, I ain't scared of you motherfuckers. And that was the first thing he said. And he took that crowd, and he just completely turned it around.
Yeah,
and, like,
sure.
you know, like, he just, like, you know, like, Bernie Mac, like, or, I think like, they said, like, don't you think pussy tastes like pumpkin pie? And he's like, you crazy motherfucker. I don't eat no pumpkin pie. Kick it. And then like the DJ would like play a song like boom, 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 boom. And then he would like do like the throat like
cut
this,
it.
Yeah, cut it, stop the music, and he'd go, you don't understand. I ain't scared of you motherfuckers. And the crowd just completely ate it up. And when I saw that, I was a kid, like, what I really saw was that how comedians would just take the crowds in the palm of their hands like that, like Bernie Mac, and even like Steve Harvey, D.L. Hughley, Martin Lawrence, a very young Chris Tucker, very young Chris Rock. I even saw Chris Rock bomb on Def Comedy Jam.
Damn.
Where he like did some of the bring the pain bits, and the crowd was not feeling it.
Dude.
So yeah, I mean, I just love the black comedy. Like, even when I was a kid, I remember I rented all the House Party movies, and I rented these weird, like, C movies that you would never, like, that nobody ever heard of, and I've never talked about with anybody because they haven't seen them. Like, you know, Three Strikes with, damn, I forgot his name. Like, Jermaine something, and then, Fat Beach, and then I Got the Hookup with Master P, and Booty Call, Def Jam's How to Be a Player, Lean on Me, and then you had like the black like school movies. Like I saw every single black movie that came out in the 90s, like The Wood, you know, which is like kind of like a romantic like kind of comedy. So like I could probably teach a class on like black movies in the 90s because I saw literally every single one of them.
It's funny because like in the way that you had like the black like comedy like experience and like really like honed into that. For some reason, me and my friends in middle school were really into like old Saturday Night Live, Wayne's World, Little Nicky. We had like memorized in our brains. Detroit Rock City, like all of these like weird like rock and roll. I don't even know. We had like that was the thing that like we lumped onto for some reason, and like that was the thing. So I think it's funny that like I don't know, people latch on to these things when we're like younger, and they totally like inform who we are. Because like I look at you, and then I look at myself, and even like that little microcosm we were into, I see shaped us so much.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god, Brent is totally like he has a very different sense of humor.
Yeah, and I get why, because like. When I want to say, like, different, like, weird or foreign or, like, odd, like, it's different than me, and I understand why. Because, like, that was, like, your comedy scene. Like, that's what you, like, watched obsessively when you were young. Versus, like, I would obsessively listen to Blizzard of Oz by Ozzy Osbourne. And I was actually thinking today about the 5 records before the age of 13 that really, like, shaped me. And other than the White Stripes, it's really eclectic, like, Spice Girls, the Detroit Rock City soundtrack, I don't even know. It's just like Kiss for some reason I super liked. But it's just weird. It's funny to think like how those things that when you're like young and immature and like, you know, how much it like affects us now. And like, you know, now that I'm like, you know, staring 25 in the face, I still like love a lot of the same stuff. And like, I haven't watched Little Nicky in forever, but I could totally rewatch it and like quote it and think positively about it. And I'm sure you could do the same, like watching like Bernie Mac tapes or all that stuff.
I also notice, like, the older I get, the more nostalgic I get about my senses. So, like, when the summertime hits, you know, like the first time that, you know, you put on the air conditioning for the summer and you just get that smell, and it only lasts for 20 minutes because then you get used to the smell. Same thing when you put the heat on, you know, for the first time. I'm very much, like, attuned to my senses in the summertime because, like, I remember, like, okay, school is over, and then I could just watch all of this stuff. And, you know, my parents, the thing was, they let me watch a lot of that stuff, except they explained to me, you know, like, they just didn't, like, you know, let me watch it and, like, well, it shaped me. Like, they explained, like, hey, you know, like, this stuff isn't real, right? Like, when it, you know, like, Cheech and Chong or, you know, but I was just like, you know, black movies. And, you know, I saw a lot of, like, sexual stuff, like, a lot of, you know, just, like, getting laid stuff. Like, even when I was a kid, I was just watching it, like, oh, okay, like, what's, like, I remember the first time like, have you ever seen the movie Coneheads?
No, but I know what it is, and I know they have sex by, like, rubbing their cones together.
Right. There's a scene where they go back home on the ship, and it's later on in the movie, and then like, Dan Aykroyd, I think Beldar was his name, brings some trinkets from Earth, and then he brings back chewing gum, but it was a condom. So the Emperor is chewing and blows a bubble with the condom, and it like looks like so. But I actually thought that's what bubblegum was. So then I remember I saw this movie. I think it was with Stephen Bald, one of the bald ones. It's called Threesome, and I think Laura Flynn Boyle was in there. And then like she.
How old were you when you were seeing this movie?
About like 7.
Jesus Christ.
So, so I'm watching it, and then I think that was one of the first times I actually saw people having sex.
I was actually just thinking about that. Like, I think the first movie I saw, like, a sex scene was Terminator.
Yeah. So,
there's a pretty intense sex scene. I think it was like 11 or 12, and it was like, oh my god, she's naked.
Right. So, but in Threesome, like she, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the way I remembered it was that she gave him the condom, but I thought it was bubble gum, and then I thought he put the bubble gum on his belly button, and then he like turned her around. He's doing her doggy, and like, you know, or at least like she's on her back and he's straight, and then like I thought like he was rubbing her lower back with the bubble gum in between his stomach. And I didn't even think that was sex. I'm like, okay, why is that? Do that.
Oh my god. I was about 8 or 9 years old. I was probably 9, and a friend across the street who had I guess a lot more knowledge than I did at that age. I remember at one point we were talking, I don't know about what or why, but she said something like, haven't you ever like realized how like boy and girl parts fit together? And of course, like my only knowledge of like the male genitalia was like I had a baby brother, like, and I'd seen it, and mom and dad had, of course, had explained like obviously boys have different parts than girls, and that's all I knew. And she said like, haven't you noticed they kind of fit together? And I was like, no, I never thought of that. And then it wasn't until like 5th grade when you have the very explicit sex talk. Well, at least we did at my school. Like, we all sat in a room, and then the gym teacher read from a book this like verbal thing of like like the penis becomes erect and enters the vagina. And like I remember my parents, like, of course they signed the permission slip that I could hear this, and I came home and was like, they gave us the talk today, and they were like, yeah, well, what did they say? And I like went up to my mom and I whispered in my mom's ear, like, the penis goes into the vagina. And I remember her face like got startled, and she looked at me, she's like, they told you that? Like, she thought it was just gonna be like sperm, egg, fertilization, like not telling us how the sperm got near the egg or like how. And like, and I think then I told her that like my friend had like mentioned like that boy and girl parts like fit together, and that oh my god, it's so gross. But yeah, no, I think the first sex scene I ever saw was in Terminator. I think there's boobs in that, and there might be butt.
I think so too. It's been a while since I've seen the first one, but you just reminded me of when we had the talk in school, and we this is like the mid-90s, so they actually had those projectors still, and that
With slides or like the overhead?
it was slides, and then like when they wanted you to move the slide, it was a record or a cassette tape would make the sound boom, and then like the teacher had to move the slide, and then it was like in 1950s like garbled voice, like when the man wants to ejaculate into a woman's body, it first becomes aroused. And then the vagina, the woman, becomes aroused as well. Boom. Her breasts become enlarged, and she becomes pregnant. Boom. And then there's a very graphic image of a baby being born, and like it was just a crying head out of a bloody hole.
Wait, was it a real life photo, or is it just an illustration?
No, it was a real life photo.
How old?
I was probably 97, so I was 4th grade. So
what?
Yeah.
I didn't see a baby being born until 8th grade, and we had to watch The Miracle of Life.
No, and this is like we just like the boom, and then it was so old and archaic, and then like he actually, the teacher brought it out of a case that was so old and dusty and just in the corner, and then God, it was so old. And then like we had the gym teacher thing too, but then like he just drew a half-ass picture of like the ovaries that kind of looked like an elephant, and then at that age everyone's like, and the penis, and we're just like like even Beavis and Butthead have an episode like that where they're in sex ed, and then Professor Buzzcut, she's like, then the penis goes in the vagina, and then Beavis and Butthead are just laughing, and he's like, if you laugh anymore, you are suspended, and they're trying to hold it in less, and then they have testicles. So
see, we had like 5th grade, they separated us to have the puberty talk, then they brought us together for the sex talk, and which was gross, and I also remember. Oh yeah, so 8th grade was when we had to have, like, we had one semester of health, 6th through 8th grade, and each year it focused on something different. Like 6th grade, it focused on, like, the different body systems. 7th grade, it focused on, like, drugs and alcohol. And then 8th grade was, like, sex. And we had an abstinence-only sex ed program, and they made us watch The Miracle of Life, even though there was, like, pregnant girls in my, like, school in 8th grade. And The Miracle of Life is, like, if you haven't seen it, it's, like, a 70s video. There's, like, opera music playing. And, like, I just remember that, like, all of a sudden it appears, like, the vagina giving birth. And the woman with her vagina giving birth. And it was, like, wait, what is that? Oh, my God! And, like, boom, it's happening. It's terrifying. It was horrible. Like, terrifying shit. Like, yeah, sex ed, man, it's not a good time. It's not my high school sex ed was good though, although because they like actually like talked about like if you're gonna have sex, use a condom, give a verbal description of like what those are, like obviously they try to scare you with all the STD stuff, and they also, but apparently there was a health teacher in my building who wouldn't say the word penis.
Did they say like dick and cock,
no,
but just not penis?
No, she would just say like the male private part. She wouldn't say penis, but she could say vagina. Like, it's just the worst. It's just the weirdest. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. So my parents did a really good job, and I bet a lot of girls my age that were like born in like the early 90s were probably given this book or an iteration of it. It was called The Care and Keeping of You by American Girl Doll. And basically what it is like it had all this health information about you as you're growing up. So it had everything from like what vitamins are and what you need and how you can get them, why exercise is important, a little bit of anxiety and depression. They did a whole puberty segment, how to insert a tampon, like the stages of breast development, like this whole thing that was super informative. How to trim your nails well and like how to keep your hair like nicer, like care for yourself, basically. And my mom gave that to me in like 4th grade. And she was like, here you go. Like, this is all about your body. And like, if you have questions, like, we can talk about it. And it was like the coolest tool ever because I was so empowered with like what my body was and how it was working. And like, I knew what a period was. I knew how my vagina works. Like, it was really empowering. It was also kind of scary because it's a lot of info to have at a young age, but it was so good to know that shit.
I've heard about that before, and I think that's a really, like, priceless tool to have. Like, boys pretty much just say, like, here, all right, here's your penis. All right. You might bust a nut in the middle of the night, even though you didn't try to. Don't be embarrassed.
Did you have to watch the video about the wet dream where like the kid's like making his bed really fast and the dad's like, making your bed, huh, son? And he's like, yeah, dad. And the dad goes, son, I know you had a wet dream.
All right, going back to like growing up with black culture, I had the black sex ed tape like that my parents bought on VHS, and it was serious.
Wait. What?
It was all like black families and black kids, but it was like a serious.
Wait, your parents bought a video to teach you about sex ed?
They ordered it on QVC. Like they bought.
What? So what was in it?
Well, it was just like the regular, like, like son, you're gonna be getting some regular feelings. Like what they really talk.
So it was like created for a black audience by black people.
Yeah, but it was really informative, but it was done in a way that was like they had a rip-off beat of Poison, you know, like that Poison, but they had that like introducing it, like there's just like black kids dancing, like the jumpsuits, and like we gotta talk about sexual education, and there was a scene where like this boy, he was having wet dreams, except they were looking at it. He had a scrub brush, and he was trying to clean it off his bed, but the puddle was gigantic. There was so much cum. And he's like, son, what you doing there? He's like, don't come in here, daddy. And then he's like, hell no. It was completely serious. And then
wait, he literally said, hell no?
Yeah. And then he's like, son, every once in a while you gotta have some wet dreams. Don't let that bother you. Just clean it up. Just tell your pop what you want. But it was just a gigantic puddle of cum in the bed. It literally looked like he made a bowl of pudding and tripped and choked.
I'm gagging. That's disgusting. Oh my god.
And then at the end, the kid rapped about like how he knows his body, and then he was confident, and then like he joined the dance crew that opened up.
And your parents were like, this is how we're gonna get through to our kid.
It made sense. Like, I learned a lot. They told it the way I understood. I was a black kid, but I was 3 to 13, so it made sense to me. So much cum. They didn't say shit.
It's like the joke in the movie The Jerk. I was born a poor black child.
And then he's in school. And then, like, he was looking at, like, another 8th grade girl or something that was, like, you know, that he was attracted to. And he's like, oh. And he's just looking at her up and down. And then they cut to, like, the smash cut of the masturbation.
You didn't show it. Wait, it's implied that he's, like, jacking off.
So the dad's like, what you doing in the bathroom, son? And he's like, nothing, Pop.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I do remember that, like, my parents, okay, so, like, they gave me, like, the care and keeping of you, and I remember the awkward sex talks at school. I do remember, because my brother is, like, 5 years younger than me, that at one point, my mom had to go get books for him at the library, because there is no care and keeping of you for a boy, and I do remember flipping, because my mom was like, I remember her bringing them home, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And she's like, your brother is growing up, he needs to know these things, don't be weird about it. And I'm, like, flipping through it, and it had a part about masturbation. And it was just, like, obviously it was, like, age appropriate. It was just, like, sometimes touching your privates feels good. This is just for you. No one else can do this. And it is a private thing that you should never do in public. Like, it was, like, very brief, very small, very positive. But I remember reading that and being like, the fuck? Like, what? Like, I mean, obviously it's better to, like, make it age appropriate and talk about it and be like, this is your body and you own it and no one should touch it. But that is for private time when you are alone, blah, 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 blah. And, like, but I remember reading that and be like, the fuck? My little brother is how old and he's gonna see and read this? But yeah, no. But, I mean, whatever. It's better for, like, parents to address it. I just can't get over the fact that your parents bought it.
It was educational.
But, like, we're gonna buy this one because this one is gonna speak to
I mean, I related so much to that black kid, man. He just came all over his bed. And he took a heavy duty scrub brush.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Dad just,
I know a person in my life who I think they said the first time that they did that, they started crying because they thought they were dying.
So, did you ever see the one that's like the 1950s one that's sexual education for trainables?
What? No, what is this?
Do you know what the term for trainable is?
No, what is that?
That is the 1950s word for retard. So
no.
So they actually have a sex ed video of they're just talking to so there's a scene where it's on YouTube, like sex ed for trainables. And there's a scene where
they called people with intellectual disabilities
trainables. And
oh my god, that's disgusting.
So it opens up with a businessman like, well, your son or daughter might be a trainable. This video is to educate you on what to say to them when it comes to sexual education. And then
no.
and then and then it cuts to the family, just like all around it. It was one of those families that had like several special needs kids. And then there's this one scene where one of the kids was in the bedroom and he was masturbating. And then but like he had his hand in his pants and he was just like being exploratory, but he did it very retardedly. So, and then the mom's just like, "Oh, hi, what are you doing?" And then like she just came in the room and like, you know, like he took his hand out of his pants and she just sat on his bed and was just saying like, "That's a very natural part of life. Don't feel embarrassed about that at all. Don't forget, you can do this by yourself. And if you have any questions about it, please feel free to talk to me." And then he just like went, "Oh," or like something.
That's so inappropriate.
Yeah, and this is past. It's on YouTube. Look it up.
That's so. I don't even want to. I'm gonna be horrified. That's disgusting. I mean, like, it's not disgusting. That I think, frankly, more like. The thing is that, like, people have this idea that people with, like, intellectual disabilities, like, aren't, like, sexual beings or, like, aren't in, like, people want to infantilize them and, like, act as if they, like, don't have these urges or that they don't need this understanding. So I think it's good to educate, obviously, but, like, that sounds so cringeworthy, and I can't get over the fact that people with intellectual disabilities are called trainable. Like, that's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible.
So we've come a long way. So
we still have ways to go in some regard, but like, oh my god,
I have so much more to talk about, like from like my youth, and I want to hear like what it was like for little Gabi growing up.
Fuck yeah, this will be another episode. Maybe we'll record this next. Maybe we won't. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, but we just did about an hour and 45 minutes of podcasting, my friend.
That's a long ass time. We spit a lot of truth. We laughed a lot. I think we learned some things. We've gone from age to maturity to childhood to sex ed. It's been a good almost 2 hours, bud.
Yeah, talked a lot about black people and trainables. And
yeah. I'm even like wincing whenever you say that word. Whoa.
Trainables. So but in any case, thank you guys for listening to Coffee and Catastrophe with Brent and Gabi. Look us up on Facebook, Coffee and Catastrophe with Brent and Gabi. At Twitter, at CCWBG. We're also on Stitcher and iTunes. And what else are we on?
Castbox. And yeah. And YouTube, but we haven't posted anything there. But we have a YouTube channel that eventually there will be content on.
Yep, we'll post our episodes as well as some other stuff. And also, if you look us up on our website at coffeeandcatastrophe.com, we have new episodes every Wednesday and Friday. So thank you very much for tuning in. And just remember to take care of yourselves and be good to each other.
Bye now.